All right, let's jump right into this explainer because today we're uncovering a truly paradigm-shifting lesson. When we think about QA, the image that usually pops into our heads is rigid rulebooks, strict compliance, maybe massive binders of standard operating procedures, right? It's a field built literally entirely on getting things exactly right. And because of that, there's this hidden assumption we all make about the people working in the industry. But today, we're going to look at a piece of insight that completely flips that script on its head and reveals what actually makes a great quality assurance professional. So let's start right here with the elephant in the room. What makes the best QA professional? We naturally assume that the absolute top performers are simply the ones holding the most knowledge. We picture the person who has memorized every single regulatory clause, the one who can cite compliance codes on the fly, basically a walking encyclopedia of industry standards. We equate maximum knowledge with maximum competence. And hey, it makes sense on the surface, doesn't it? But let's take a step back and really question that assumption. Because, as it turns out, the top-tier professionals in this field aren't always the ones with the highest volume of memorized facts. They aren't always the smartest ones in the room. Now, don't get me wrong, foundational knowledge is absolutely crucial. You can't do the job without it. But it's not the defining characteristic of greatness here. Just having all the textbook answers doesn't automatically elevate you to the top tier. Something else entirely acts as the ultimate separator. Actually, more often than not, the very best in the business are the most curious, and this directly separates the professionals who just check boxes from the ones who actively improve systems. Think about that distinction for a second. Checking boxes is just maintaining the status quo, right? It's confirming that what was supposed to happen, happened. But improving systems? That requires vision. It requires an innate itch to look at a process and wonder how it could be better, safer, or more efficient. Curiosity is the true engine driving that improvement. Section 1. Curiosity over checking boxes. So, standard thinking usually just stops at identifying the problem. What happened? Is the most basic question of any investigation. A machine broke, a batch failed, a document got misfiled. The person who's just checking boxes finds the answer, logs it, and moves on. Boom, error identified. But true curiosity, it absolutely refuses to stop there. For the curious professional, finding out what happened isn't the finish line. It's literally just the starting block. Section 2. The right questions to ask. A curious mindset drives you to dig so much deeper, fundamentally shifting the focus to human inquiry. Instead of settling for that surface-level event, these folks systematically interrogate the system. They're asking, okay, but why did it happen? To get to the real root cause. Then, and this is huge, they look at the safety nets. Why didn't our controls detect it earlier? That right there questions the very safeguards you're relying on. They keep pushing. What assumptions are we making? And what risk are we totally overlooking here? This forces everyone out of their blind spots. And finally, they ask the ultimate growth question. How can we make this process more robust? They aren't just putting out a fire, they are fireproofing the whole building. To see how this applies practically, think about the core events in your day-to-day workflow. Every single deviation from the standard. Every deep dive root cause investigation you run when things inevitably go off the rails. Every rigorous inspection, whether it's an internal audit or a stressful visit from a regulatory body. And of course, every CAPA, the absolute backbone of quality improvement. Every single one of these foundational actions absolutely has to start with a question. They aren't just administrative chores, they're investigative journeys. If you're starting a CAPA just to fulfill some regulatory requirement, you're entirely missing the point. The catalyst for real meaningful change is an inquiring mind deciding to look just a little bit closer. And this brings us to a massive takeaway. The ultimate quality of the solutions you design will be completely determined by the quality of the questions you ask. It's that simple. If you ask a shallow, easy question, you're going to get a shallow Band-Aid solution. Sure, it might fix the problem for today, but I guarantee that issue is coming back tomorrow. But if you ask a deep, penetrating, maybe even uncomfortable question, you're going to build a structural, permanent solution. Your outputs are entirely dependent on your inputs. I love this quote. Knowledge helps you follow procedures. Curiosity helps you improve them. This is the absolute core of our explainer today. Knowing the rules keeps you compliant, it keeps you out of trouble. But being deeply curious, that is your superpower for continuous improvement. Procedures aren't carved in stone, they're living documents that need to evolve, and curiosity is the tool that forces that evolution. Section 3. AI and the QA future. Now, why does this matter right now? Well, as we navigate this incredibly fast-changing tech landscape, remember, We live in a world where AI can spit out answers in seconds. If you need to look up a regulation or summarize a procedure, AI does it faster and honestly more accurately than a human ever could. The sheer volume of answers in your head is no longer a competitive advantage. So the truly valuable human skill becomes knowing exactly which questions to feed into the system. AI doesn't know what it doesn't know. It needs a curious human mind to direct it and point it toward those hidden risks we talked about earlier. Because of this massive shift, the future of QA isn't going to belong to the folks who just know the most facts, the human encyclopedias. They're kind of being replaced. Instead, the future belongs entirely to the lifelong learners. It belongs to the people who adapt, the people who constantly probe their environment, and those whose curiosity drives them to understand the why behind the what. So your true value, your impact, your long-term career trajectory, it won't be measured by the sheer volume of answers you possess. It's going to be defined entirely by the depth of your inquiries. The professionals who thrive in the future are the ones who treat QA not as a rigid checklist, but as this dynamic, ongoing investigation into excellence. I want to leave you with this final thought. And seriously, chew on this for a bit today. What single question has taught you the most profound lesson in your career so far? Think back to a time when asking why or how unlocked a door you didn't even know was there. Keep asking those hard questions, keep pushing those boundaries, and keep that curiosity alive. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer.